Well, anyway, we were able to survive the whole experience, and it was a little bit flooded leaving the great city of St. Louis. We had to carry our bikes on our shoulders, but we continued out of the city, out of Illinois into the bluegrass state of Kentucky, all the way across Kentucky into the volunteer state of Tennessee. We stopped in Nashville, that's the capital of the state, and there we saw the
governor's man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, we continued on out of Tennessee into the great peach state of Georgia. We stopped, as you might imagine, in Atlanta. That's the capital of the state, and there we saw the
governor's man.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's the interactive part of the program. Now, we continued down out of Georgia, and we came into Florida. And we discovered that Florida looks a lot like Georgia. Florida is one of those interesting places where south is north and north is south. Anyway, in the northern part of Florida, which is like the south, we stopped in a town called Gainesville. Now, we had a great time in Gainesville. We played, now have you ever had this experience? You play some songs at a church in the morning at the worship service, and afterwards the pastor says, hey, come on over for lunch. Sure, you say, no problem. So you're having lunch at the pastor's house after you've played a few songs at worship. This is no problem. Halfway through lunch, have you ever had this experience? You're eating lunch, halfway through lunch, somebody looks at you and says, how about after lunch we go out back and shoot some guns? We say, oh, no thanks. Well, turns out, you know, just gotta do what the locals do when yeah, as you can see, here's a fine illustration. We went right outside. We went right outside and stood on Bermuda. Yep, and we shot guns. Now, this is a fine picture of me enjoying myself enormously. I'm enjoying myself so much that my feet have fallen off. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm wearing my Florida shorts with no shirt.
Bermuda shorts.
My Bermuda shorts, exactly. So there I am, enjoying myself so much that my feet are green.
Algae.
And so we're shooting guns. Well, we discovered that our pastor friend had set up some cans and targets on a fence on the far side of the lawn. Now, we noticed though that when we would fire the guns, none of the cans would move. But pecans would fall from a nearby tree. So we realized what was happening. We were hunting. So we thought, hey, this is fantastic. Now, as you can see this illustration. So what we do is we get ready, we shoot the guns, pecans would fall from the tree. Then after like a suitable, amount of time had elapsed, we would sneak over to the pecans and field dress them right there. We'd take the meat out of them. And we took the meat out of the pecans, and then we made hats out of the pecan shells. Just like that. That's right. And we tied the pecan meat to the antennas of our CD players and continued on down the road. Anyway, we continued down the coast of Florida, having a great time as we went. All kinds of interesting and fascinating things happened. Oh, and then we came to the Everglades. Now, if you've been to the Everglades, you know that there's a street across the Everglades, goes from Fort Lauderdale to Naples, all the way across the bottom of Florida. It's called Alligator Alley. Aptly called Alligator something, but not so aptly called an alley, because it's 90 miles of road, lined on both sides with alligators. Now, there's signs up that say, if your car breaks down, don't get out of your car. So here we were, just riding our bikes, having a nice time. And the thing is, as you can see, this is a fine illustration of one of the alligators that we saw. They were really big. And this fine alligator, he's got alligator belt, alligator shoes. That must be an alligator bag, and this is the alligator lunch right here. And big eyes, the better to see you with. So we see these alligators, and here's a free piece of advice. If you're riding your bicycles across the Everglades, and you see an old piece of a truck tire laying in the grass, don't try to move that, because it's not really a tire, it's an alligator. So we're riding across there, and there's these signs up that say, well, they have those diamond-shaped yellow warning signs. You ever see those? It's stuff you're not supposed to hit with your car. You might have them around here that might have a different picture of an animal on them or something like that. Like you might have the flying deer one. You ever see that? Yeah. Well, they don't want you to hit things with your car. Well, in the Everglades, they have panthers. And the panthers are an endangered species. They don't want you to, by accident with your car, be like, And so they have a sign up that says, caution, only 29 left. Picture of a panther, caution, only 29 left. Well, someone had had an accident before we got there and taken a marker and crossed out the 9 and written 28. Yeah, poor panther. Yeah. So anyway, we continued on out of the great state of Florida. We crossed across the Everglades. We continued out of Florida up the west coast, the really nice part of Florida over there. Well, we came into the highest point of land in Florida. That's Tallahassee, capital of the state, and there we saw the governor's mansion. Thank you. You're welcome. Well, we had a great time in Florida, but it was time to leave, so we went to LA, Lower Alabama. We continued through Lower Alabama and on into the great state of Mississippi, the Magnolia State, all kinds of interesting things, and then we came into the great state of Louisiana. One day, we played a concert at a grade school at 9 o'clock in the morning in New Orleans, and then rode our bicycles 90 miles to Baton Rouge and played a concert at a church that night at 7 o'clock. It was all kind of a crazy experience, but when we got to Baton Rouge, we discovered that's the capital of the state, and there we saw the governor's mansion. You're welcome. We had a great time in Baton Rouge. Oh, in fact, okay, so not only did we see the governor's mansion in Baton Rouge, but we went inside the governor's house, where George played the governor's piano. Yeah, the governor wasn't home at the time. He was otherwise detained. Yeah, he couldn't make it. So we continued out of the great state of Louisiana, and we came into the Lone Star State of Texas, where we learned that Texas is a big state. Had we known how big Texas is, we may have never left our homes in New York. We rode our bicycles 1,200 miles just across the state of Texas. We came in at a town called Beaumont, and we came out at a town called El Paso.
El Paso.
El Paso. Over the course of those 6 weeks, we had many interesting experiences. Of course, we stopped in Austin, Texas. That's the capital of the state, and there we saw the all kinds of interesting things happened, but no time for that now. We went to the western part of Texas, and we stayed in this town called Pecos. Pecos, Texas. George, with extraordinary faith, moves mountains. So we stayed in this little town called Pecos, Texas. Fantastic time we had there. We stayed with these people named Bo and Snuffy McQueen. That was their names. And their best friends were named Jack and Sparky. Now, we had a fantastic time. They were nicest people. Now, say to this mountain, go into the sea. So, we stay with Bo and Snuffy McQueen. Now, they live on a huge ranch. They have so many acres of property that their closest neighbor is thousands of acres away. So they have to have their own amusements and diversions in their backyard. Now, we had never before this time met a private family living in a house that had a trampoline. They had their own trampoline. Not one of those little round trampolines like you see on late night TV advertised as an aid to digestion. This was like a real true trampoline like you'd have at school. And so it's in the backyard. We love trampolines. I mean, we stay at hotels and we jump on the beds and stuff like that. Not here. But we normally do. And so I had a great time. Anyway, here, in this fine illustration, you can see there I am jumping on the trampoline, enjoying myself enormously. So much so that my nose had fallen off my face. I've got no nose. Then I do. Then I'm like, whoa, West Texas. So we're out there, we're having a great time, jumping up and down on the trampoline. As you can see, my hands have come off, my feet have fallen off. I'm jumping and jumping. I notice that next to the trampoline is the garage. Now, not just a normal garage like you'd have in the rest of the country. This is a Texas-sized garage. Satellite dish, 2 stories tall. Yeah. And so I think to myself, it would be interesting to jump from the trampoline onto the roof of the garage. It's not that far away. So I get up all my courage, jump, up and off the trampoline, up across the Rocky Mountains, over the Rocky Mountains, and I land right on the roof of the garage. And I start sliding down the shingles, because they're kind of slippery and stuff like that, and I slide down there. Finally, with one foot in the gutter, I get myself clinging there. And there I am. I'm on the roof of the garage at Bo and Snuffy McQueen's house. And I'm kind of basking in the glow of my achievement up there on the garage roof. And so, and some people from Pecos, as you can see in this illustration, came by to see what we looked like. They were wearing cowboy hats, and they saw us. They were like, I heard there were the fellas from New York were here today, and there we were. I was on the roof of the garage. And they said, whoa, how'd you get up there?
Pointing.
Look, up there on the garage roof. And so I'm up there, and I'm enjoying myself, and then at some point I get a little bit bored, and I think, I wonder how I should get down. Now, if you knew me, you know I don't know how to get down. And so I think, the best thing is I'm just gonna have to jump back to the trampoline. So I bet I can jump off this garage roof and land on the trampoline. So I get up all my courage, I jump up off the garage roof into Canada. I go into Canada and I come back down, I land right on the trampoline. But have you ever had that experience where you're coming down on a trampoline, and as you're coming down on the trampoline is coming up? And so I hit the trampoline, and my legs go out from underneath me. And I was sad, as you can see in this illustration. My legs go completely out from underneath me, and my head went down in between those springy things. Now, it wasn't so bad when my head was going down into the springs, because the springs were opening up. But as the trampoline started to throw me back up toward the provinces of Canada, the springs grabbed a hold of the side of my face, trapping my head in there next to that metal bar, as you can see in this illustration. And my head wouldn't stop hitting that bar because George wouldn't stop jumping. And there it is. That's what we now call the fracas and pecus. And somewhere in the pool of blood there, George lost his wallet.
That's right.
Poor Panther.
Yeah.
So George lost his wallet, and we continued out of Texas. On the way out of Texas, we stopped in El Paso, where all of our clothes were lost in a fire. It's nothing tragic or anything like that. It was just our clothes that burned. Yeah, we went out to Mexico for the day, and the people we were staying with washed our clothes for us, and we forgot to tell them they were most of them were made out of special Lucky Secret Magic fabric that wicks the moisture away from your body, but you should never let it get very hot. And our clothes went in the dryer, and then they became burned and melted. Our clothes melted. We had a couple of cotton T-shirts in there, though. So most of the clothes melted, and the little melted part, when it dried back up, it affixed itself to our T-shirts. So what we had spiky T-shirts, which really wasn't so bad, except that we'd been riding through the desert now for 3 or 4 days, and we had these deep sunburns. And then the only shirts we had when we left El Paso were these spiky T-shirts. So this is what we looked like right there. Wearing our spike, trying not to let the shirts touch our body, riding our bikes away. We're like, no, we're fine. See you later. And we rode off into the desert. We wandered.